6 months had passed since the crash, and the alien ship had become the most important place in the solar system. Scientists, engineers, and military experts from Earth, Mars, and the Belt colonies worked around the clock in the massive wreck. Dr. Park Hae-jin hadn't slept properly in weeks. She stood in what used to be the ship's engine room, surrounded by a maze of cables, computers, and half-built machinery. The original Vorthak engines were completely destroyed, but their power core was still intact, barely. "The quantum resonance is off by 0.03%, said Dr. Yoon Jae-sung, checking his instruments. The physicist had arrived from Earth 3 months ago and had been living inside the alien ship ever since. "If we can't stabilize it, the whole core will collapse." "Then we don't stabilize it," Park said. "We rebuild it." Yoon looked at her like she had suggested juggling plutonium. "Rebuild a quantum power core? Park, this thing generates more energy than a star. One mistake and we blow up half the solar system. Then we don't make mistakes." That was the thing about humans, Park had realized. When faced with something impossible, they didn't give up. They found a different way to do it. The Vorthak had built their power core to work perfectly under specific conditions. When those conditions changed, it failed catastrophically. But humans were used to things not working perfectly. They built systems that could adapt, that could keep running even when half the parts were broken. Park's breakthrough had come when she stopped trying to fix the alien technology and started trying to understand it. The Vorthak hadn't just built a power core. They had built a work of art. Beautiful, elegant, and completely inflexible. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a crystal matrix that pulsed with inner light. They used single-purpose quantum crystals. Each one does exactly one job perfectly, but if one crystal fails, the whole system shuts down. "That's good engineering," Yoon protested. "Elegant. That's terrible engineering," said Engineer Oh So Young from across the room. She was working on a pile of salvage components, turning alien technology into something humans could actually use. "What happens when you're in the middle of a battle and you don't have the right crystal?" "You lose," said tech specialist Kang Yu-jin. He had been studying Vorthak battle records for months. "Look at their combat reports. They win battles through overwhelming firepower and perfect coordination, but when something goes wrong, when they face an unexpected problem, they fall apart." That was exactly what had happened to the Keth Morin. The Zelani had used suicide ships to damage the Vorthak formation. Once the perfect battle plan was disrupted, the aliens couldn't adapt fast enough to respond. "We're not building a perfect system," Park announced to her team. "We're building a system that works even when it's broken." The first test of the hybrid power core almost killed everyone on Phobos. The explosion could be seen from Mars orbit, and for 3 terrifying minutes nobody could raise the research team on the radio. When the smoke cleared, Park's voice came through, shaky but triumphant. "It works. The safety systems kicked in perfectly. We lost about 20% of the core, but the rest adapted and kept running." Admiral Cho Min-seo had arrived to shut down the project after the explosion, but Park's success changed her mind. "Show me," the Admiral said simply. The rebuilt power core didn't look like the original. Where the Vorthak had used perfect crystal arrays, the humans had installed modular components that could be swapped out during battle. Where the aliens had precise quantum fields, the humans had rough but reliable fusion chambers, backing up the exotic matter systems. It was uglier than the original. It was also 3 times more powerful and nearly impossible to destroy completely. "Even if we lose half the components, it'll keep running," Oh explained proudly. "And look at this. We can hot swap damaged parts without shutting down the whole system." The Vorthak prisoners watched the demonstration with growing horror. Thekval had become almost cooperative over the months, partly because he was fascinated by human engineering and partly because he was terrified of what they might do next. "This is not how technology works," he protested. "Systems must be pure, elegant, perfect." "Says who?" Park asked. That simple question seemed to break something in Thekval's mind. He stared at her for a long moment, then made a sound that might have been laughter or sobbing. "Says everyone," he whispered. "Says the builders who gave us this technology. Says 1,000 years of Vorthak tradition. Says the natural order of the universe." "Well, the universe is wrong," Oh said cheerfully. The weapons were next. The Keth Moran's original armament had been impressive, but predictable. Massive energy cannons that fired in straight lines, targeting systems that tracked enemies based on heat and electromagnetic signatures, shields that blocked specific types of energy. Commander Kim Tae-woo had been put in charge of the weapons project, and he approached it like a Marine, by asking what could go wrong and preparing for it. Their targeting system is amazing, he admitted, watching Lieutenant Commander Han Mi-rae work on the alien computers. It can track 100 ships at once and never miss. But what happens if the enemy uses stealth technology? It fails, Han replied. The whole system is built around perfect sensor data. Jam the sensors and the weapons can't hit anything. So we fix that. The human modifications were typically crude and effective. Where the Vorthak had relied on sophisticated sensors, the humans added simple backup systems, optical tracking, gravitometric detection, even old-fashioned radar from the early space age. More importantly, they added human pilots to the targeting loop. The alien system had been completely automated, trusting computer calculations over biological instincts. The humans kept the computers but gave their gunners the ability to override any decision. Computers are great at math, Kim explained to Admiral Cho during a demonstration, but humans are better at guessing what the enemy will do next. The real breakthrough came when O discovered that human brain patterns could interface directly with the damaged Vorthak quantum computers. The alien AI systems had been designed to accept only Vorthak neural patterns, but the crash had damaged their discrimination protocols. It's like the computers are confused, O explained, a neural interface headset covering her eyes. They know I'm not Vorthak, but they can't figure out what I am instead. So they're accepting my inputs as valid. The combination was extraordinary, human creativity enhanced by alien computational power. The targeting systems could now predict enemy movements by combining mathematical probability with human intuition. The weapons could adapt their frequencies and targeting patterns in real time based on a gunner's instincts. Even the ship's hull was being transformed. The original Vorthak armor had been nearly indestructible, but only in its intended configuration. Human engineers, led by Dr. Song Woo-jin, had been studying the wreckage and had radical ideas for improvement. They built this thing like a fortress, Song explained to the assembled team. Thick walls, heavy armor, designed to take hits and keep fighting. But what if we don't take hits at all? The human modifications used metamaterials that could change their properties on command. Sections of the hull could become transparent to certain energy frequencies, allowing enemy shots to pass harmlessly through. Other sections could become super dense to absorb impacts that couldn't be avoided. It's like fighting smoke, Han said admiringly. The enemy thinks they're hitting solid armor, but half their shots pass right through nothing. Not all of the modifications were successful. The first attempt to restart the ship's engines created a quantum cascade that turned 3 kilograms of hull metal into exotic matter. The explosion left a perfectly spherical hole 12 meters across and confused physicists for weeks. The second attempt worked better, though the engines now sounded like a fusion reactor having an argument with a thunderstorm. It's not supposed to sound like that, Yoon said nervously. None of this is supposed to work at all, Park replied, but it does. By the end of 6 months, the ship was no longer the Keth Moran. The humans had renamed it the Taegeukkum, meaning Ultimate Harmony Ship in Korean. The name reflected what they had built. Not a pure human ship or a pure alien ship, but something that combined the best of both. Dekval had stopped protesting months ago. Now he just watched the humans work with a mixture of fascination and dread. Your species is insane, he told Park during one of their daily conversations. You take perfect technology and make it imperfect on purpose. We make it flexible, Park corrected. We make it adaptable. We make it work even when everything goes wrong. But why? Dekval asked desperately. Why would you choose chaos over order? Park smiled. Because chaos is where the interesting stuff happens. The Vorthak commander stared at her for a long moment, then made that sound again, the one that was either laughter or sobbing. The Empire will come, he said quietly. When they detect the quantum signature of their lost ship, they will send a fleet. 100 ships, maybe more. They will burn your worlds and enslave your people, and all your clever modifications will mean nothing. Maybe, Park agreed, but we'll make them work for it. As if summoned by his words, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. Admiral Cho's voice echoed through the corridors. All hands to battle stations. We have incoming Vorthak vessels. The red dust of Phobos swirled around Captain Lee Daeho's boots as he walked toward the crash site. Even through his helmet's filter, he could smell the metallic tang of burning metal and something else. Something alien and wrong. The ship stretched across the small moon's surface like a metal mountain. 15 kilometers of twisted, broken hull gleamed under Mars's distant light. Lee had seen plenty of human ships in his 20 years with the Mars Colonial Defense Force, but this thing was different. It looked like someone had tried to build a weapon out of liquid metal and dark nightmares. "Sir, we're picking up movement inside," said Commander Kim Tae-woo through the radio. His Marine squad was already setting up a perimeter around what looked like the main entrance. A hole the size of a building had been torn in the ship's side during the crash. Dr. Park Hae-jin stepped up beside Lee, her scanner beeping steadily. "The energy readings are incredible. This thing was putting out more power than our entire Mars grid system before it crashed." She looked up at the towering wreck. "Whatever built this, they're way ahead of us in technology." Lee nodded grimly. 3 days ago, every telescope in the solar system had watched this ship fall from hyperspace, trailing fire and debris. It had been damaged in some kind of battle. That much was clear from the massive holes blown through its hull. Now it sat on Phobos like a dead whale on a beach. "Any word on who they are?" Lee asked. "We've been calling them the Vorthak," Park said, checking her notes. "That's what their computer systems keep saying when we try to access them. The translation software is still working on their language, but it seems they're some kind of military empire." A new voice crackled over the radio. "Captain, this is Oh-So Young in engineering. We found something big." The young woman's voice was excited and nervous at the same time. "There are survivors." Lee felt his heart skip. First contact with an alien species was supposed to happen in a nice, controlled environment with diplomats and scientists, not on a battlefield with a crashed warship. "How many?" He asked. 15 that we can see, sir. They're in some kind of sleep pods. The pods are still working, but barely." Lee looked at Kim, then at Park. This was way above his pay grade, but someone had to make decisions. "Can we get them out safely?" "Maybe," O said. "But sir, you need to see their weapons first. What's left of them anyway?" 20 minutes later, Lee stood in what had once been the ship's main gun deck. Even destroyed, the weapons were terrifying. Massive crystal formations that had once focused energy into beams capable of melting mountains, targeting computers that could track 100 ships at once, loading systems for projectiles that could crack planets. "This one gun had more firepower than our entire fleet," Park whispered, running her scanner over a shattered crystal array. "They could have wiped out Earth without breaking a sweat." "Good thing they crashed then," Kim said. But his voice was tight. They all knew what this meant. Somewhere out there was an empire with ships like this one. Lots of them. The survivors were in a section of the ship that had stayed mostly intact. The sleep pods looked like metal coffins with clear tops. Inside, the aliens looked almost human, if humans had gray skin, forearms, and faces like angry cats. They wore uniforms covered in symbols that probably meant military ranks. "The biggest one is their leader," O said, pointing to a pod in the center. "His rank symbols are different from the others." "Can you wake them up?" Lee asked. "I think so." "But sir," O looked worried. "Should we? I mean, we don't know if they're friendly." Park was already working on that problem. She had connected her computer to one of the alien systems and was slowly working through their database. "I'm getting some translations now," she said. "This ship is called the Kethmoran. It means, oh, what? Death's Edge." Lee felt cold despite his heated suit. A ship named Death's Edge probably wasn't carrying diplomats and peace treaties. "There's more," Park continued, reading from her screen. "They were fighting someone called the Zilani Resistance. Apparently the Vorthak have been conquering star systems for over 1,000 years. The Zilani were trying to stop them." "Looks like they succeeded, at least with this ship," Kim said. "Actually, no." Park's face was pale. "According to this, the Vorthak won. They destroyed the Zilani homeworld 3 days ago. This ship was damaged during the final battle, but the Vorthak Empire is still out there." The weight of that news settled over the group like a heavy blanket. An empire of conquerors with technology that made human weapons look like sticks and stones. And now 15 of them were sleeping in pods just 20 meters away. "We need to contact Earth Command," Lee said. "This is bigger than just Mars." "Already did," Kim replied. "Admiral Cho is on her way. Should be here in 6 hours." While they waited, Park's team kept working on the alien systems. Every new discovery was more impressive and more terrifying than the last. The ship's computers contained star maps showing hundreds of conquered worlds, battle records of victories against dozens of different species, technical manuals for weapons that could glass entire continents. But there were also strange gaps in the records. Systems that had been damaged not just in the recent battle, but over time. Maintenance logs showing constant repairs and jury-rigged solutions. For all their advanced technology, the Vorthak seemed to have problems keeping it working. It's like they know how to use this stuff, but they don't really understand it, O said, puzzling over a power coupling that had been fixed with what looked like space-age duct tape. This repair job is terrible. A first-year engineering student could do better. Maybe they inherited this technology instead of developing it themselves, Park suggested. Or maybe they're just not good engineers. When Admiral Cho arrived, she brought bad news. We've detected energy signatures consistent with this ship type in 17 other star systems, she said, studying the wreck. They're not moving toward us yet, but it's only a matter of time. What are our orders, Admiral? Lee asked. Cho was quiet for a long moment, looking at the massive alien ship. Learn everything we can, fast. If we're going to face an empire with this kind of technology, we need every advantage we can get. And the survivors? Wake them up carefully. We need to know what we're dealing with. The alien commander came out of his pod swinging. Even with 4 arms restrained and obviously weak from his long sleep, he tried to attack every human in sight. His name was Tekval, and he made his opinion of humanity very clear even before the translation software was working properly. Primitives, he snarled in accented English once the computers had figured out his language. You dare to touch a Vorthak warship? Your pathetic species will burn for this insult. Your ship crashed, Lee said calmly. We're trying to help. Tekval laughed, a harsh sound like metal scraping metal. Help? You cannot even comprehend what you are looking at. This ship contains technology beyond your primitive understanding. You might as well try to teach fire to fish. Park stepped forward. We've already accessed your computer systems and repaired 3 of your power couplings. For the first time, Tekval looked uncertain. Impossible. Vorthak systems are beyond alien comprehension. Want to bet? O said with a grin. Over the next few hours, the human team systematically proved Tekval wrong. They accessed system after system, translated database after database, and even managed to bring one of the smaller weapons back online for testing. Tekval watched it all with growing alarm. This is not possible, he kept muttering. Lesser species cannot understand Vorthak technology. Maybe we're not as lesser as you think, Park said. By the end of the day, one thing was clear. The humans had not only figured out how the alien technology worked, they had started thinking of ways to improve it. O had already sketched out modifications to the power system that would make it more efficient. Park had ideas for upgrading the targeting computers. Even Kim was suggesting tactical improvements to the weapon layouts. Tekval stared at the humans with something that might have been fear. What are you? He whispered. Lee smiled. We're engineers. News of humanity's victory at Phobos spread through the galaxy, faster than anyone expected. Within weeks, the quantum communication networks that connected dozens of star systems were buzzing with impossible stories. A primitive species had defeated Vorthak warships. A single vessel had disabled 3 enemy ships without taking serious damage. Ambassador Lee Kyung-mi stood in the briefing room aboard Earth Station Alpha, looking at representatives from 6 different alien species. 3 months ago, humans hadn't known aliens existed. Now they were hosting their first interstellar diplomatic conference. The Kepler Federation offers immediate trade agreements and technology exchange, said Ambassador Zell Thera, a tall, graceful being with silver skin and 6 arms. Your victory has inspired hope throughout our territories. The Kepler Federation controlled 12 star systems and had been paying tribute to the Vorthak Empire for over 2 centuries. They were skilled traders and diplomats, but their military technology was decades behind human standards. The Jelkari Collective proposes a military alliance, announced war singer Krendar, whose species looked like armored bears with opposable thumbs. We have fought the Vorthak for 50 years. Together we can drive them from the galaxy. The Jelkari were warriors, but honorable ones. They fought to protect their territory, not to conquer others. Their ships were fast and tough, but they lacked the weapons to seriously threaten Vorthak battle groups. Other species had similar stories. The Manthari Consortium had been hiding in the Outer Rim for decades, using their advanced stealth technology to avoid Vorthak attention. The Yervan Republic had seen half their worlds conquered before retreating to fortified systems near the galactic core. Every alien diplomat had the same message. The Vorthak Empire was vast, ancient and seemingly unstoppable. Until now. How many ships do they have? Lee asked. Our intelligence suggests at least 10,000 warships, Zelthera replied, spread across 300 star systems. Most are smaller than the vessel you captured, but their newest dreadnoughts are twice the size. And they're all heading this way, added Captain An Jong-soo from his position at the military briefing table. He commanded humanity's first home-built hybrid warship, the Soul's Pride, which had been constructed using technology learned from the Tegukum. Not all at once, Krendar said. The Vorthak Empire is vast, but it moves slowly. They will send a punishment fleet first, perhaps 50 ships, to make an example of your species. If that fails, they will commit more resources. How long do we have? 6 months, maybe less. Vorthak doctrine requires swift response to challenges to their authority. Lee nodded grimly. 6 months to prepare for a battle that would decide humanity's fate. It seemed impossible. Fortunately, humans specialized in impossible. Back on Phobos, the original Tegukum had become the center of the largest engineering project in human history. Scientists and engineers from every nation on Earth worked alongside alien specialists, sharing knowledge and techniques that had been secret for centuries. Dr. Park Hyojin now led a team of over 300 researchers. The crashed Vorthak ship had become a laboratory, a factory, and a school all at once. The problem isn't building ships, she explained to Admiral Cho during their daily briefing. We can construct hybrid vessels faster than anyone expected. The problem is training crews to use them. It was true. Human shipyards were working around the clock, producing vessels that combined the best of human and alien technology. But each ship required a crew that could think in ways no military academy had ever taught. The Soul's Pride has a crew of 200, Admiral Cho noted. How many of them actually understand the hybrid systems? About 30, Park admitted. The rest are learning on the job. That was the challenge. Human military doctrine was based on standardized procedures and predictable equipment. The hybrid ships required crews who could improvise, adapt, and think creatively under pressure. We need a new kind of training program, said Dr. Song Woo-jin, who had been developing simulation systems based on Vorthak battle records. Something that teaches flexibility instead of rigid procedures. The solution came from an unexpected source. Engineer Oh So-young had been working with a group of video game designers, creating virtual reality scenarios that could prepare crews for the chaos of hybrid ship combat. Traditional military training teaches you to follow orders and procedures. Oh explained to a group of new recruits. This training teaches you to break rules and make up new ones. The simulations were unlike anything in human military history. Crews faced scenarios where their weapons didn't work as expected, where their ships changed configuration mid-battle, where enemy tactics made no sense according to established doctrine. The point isn't to win every battle, Oh told the frustrated trainees. The point is to keep fighting even when everything goes wrong. Meanwhile, the Vorthak prisoners had become an unexpected resource. Led by the former war commander Thekval, they provided detailed information about Empire tactics, ship designs, and military philosophy. You still do not understand, Thekval said during one of his regular briefings. The Empire has faced rebellions before. The Zelani lasted 3 centuries. The Korth Republic fought for 500 years. All were eventually crushed. What made them different from us? Lee asked. They fought like we expected them to fight. They used superior numbers, better positioning, more advanced tactics, all things the Empire has faced before and overcome. And we fight like chaos, Park observed. Yes. And chaos cannot be planned for or countered through doctrine. It can only be met with greater chaos, and the Empire has no experience with that. As the months passed, humanity's hybrid fleet grew. The Soul's Pride was joined by the Busan Thunder, the Incheon Lightning, and a dozen smaller vessels. Each ship was unique, reflecting the creativity of its design team and the personality of its crew. More importantly, humanity's allies were adapting the hybrid concept to their own technologies. The Kepler Federation's trading ships were being converted into fast attack vessels. The Jelkari Warsingers were integrating human weapons systems into their battlecruisers. It's not just about the technology, observed Ambassador Zelthera during a strategy meeting. It's about the mindset. Your species has taught us to think differently about warfare. The Vorthak response came exactly when predicted. 50 warships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. led by Fleet Commander Gextar, one of the Empire's most experienced generals. His first mistake was sending a surrender demand. "Primitive species of the third planet," his message began. "You have committed crimes against the Vorthak Empire. Surrender immediately and your deaths will be swift." The reply came from Admiral Cho aboard the Tegacum. "This is Admiral Cho Min Seo of the Terran Defense Force. You have entered our star system without permission. Leave now or we will remove you." Gextar's laughter could be heard across the communication channel. "You face 50 ships of the line with what? A handful of modified vessels. Your courage is admirable but futile. We'll see about that." The Battle of Sol began at the asteroid belt where the human fleet had taken position among the rocky debris. It was an unusual choice that immediately confused the Vorthak formation. "Why are they hiding among rocks?" Gextar asked his tactical officer. "Do they think asteroids will stop our weapons?" "Perhaps they hope to use the debris as cover, Commander." "Irrelevant. Order all ships to advance in battle formation. We will sweep them from space like dust." But as the Vorthak fleet moved into the asteroid field, the rocks around them began to move. What Gextar had thought were asteroids were actually camouflaged weapons platforms, built by human engineers and hidden throughout the belt. The rocks opened fire from all directions, their weapons tuned to frequencies the Vorthak had never encountered. "Ambush," Gextar roared. "All ships defensive formation." But the Vorthak formation was designed for open space combat, not three-dimensional warfare in a debris field. As they tried to regroup, the human hybrid ship struck from unexpected angles. The Sol's Pride emerged from behind a genuine asteroid, its metamorphic hull configured for maximum firepower. Captain An had trained his crew for exactly this kind of chaotic battle, where standard tactics were useless. "Target their command ship," he ordered. "Let's give their admiral something to think about." The hybrid weapons tore through the Vorthak flagship's shields like they were made of paper. The enemy vessel's elegant design, so perfectly suited for traditional space combat, became a liability in the swirling chaos of the asteroid field. Other hybrid ships struck from different directions. The Busan Thunder had reconfigured itself to look like a mining vessel, only revealing its true nature when it opened fire from point-blank range. The Incheon Lightning used its adaptive engines to perform maneuvers that should have been impossible for a ship of its size. "This is not warfare," Gextar transmitted desperately. "This is madness. This is how humans fight," Admiral Cho replied. The battle lasted 6 hours and ended with the complete destruction or capture of the Vorthak fleet. Fleet Commander Gextar's final transmission before his flagship was boarded contained a warning that would echo through the Empire. "These humans, they do not just use our technology, they make it become something new." 5 years had passed since the broken alien ship crashed on Phobos, and the galaxy was a different place. The Vorthak Empire, which had ruled unopposed for over a millennium, was falling apart. President Park Dong-hyun stood on the observation deck of the Seoul station, watching construction crews put the finishing touches on humanity's greatest achievement. The massive space habitat was 30 kilometers long and home to over 2 million beings from 17 different species. "It's beautiful," said Admiral Kim Hae-won, joining him at the viewing window. She now commanded the hybrid defense fleet, a force of over 300 vessels that patrolled the trade routes between allied worlds. "More than beautiful," Park replied. "It's proof that different species can work together to build something amazing." The station was a marvel of cooperative engineering. Kepler Federation anti-grav generators provided artificial gravity. Zelkari armor plating protected the outer hull. Manthari stealth fields could hide the entire station from enemy sensors. And human engineering held it all together with adaptive systems that could repair themselves. Every part of the station reflected the same philosophy that had transformed the original alien warship: take the best ideas from everyone, combine them in new ways, and never stop improving. Dr. Lim Sang-wook, the station's chief engineer, approached with his usual excited expression. "President, we're ready for the maiden voyage test. All systems are operating perfectly, including the new hyperspace drive, especially the hyperspace drive. We've combined human adaptive engineering with Vorthak power systems and Kepler navigation technology. This station can travel faster than any ship in the galaxy." That was important because the Seoul station wasn't just a habitat. It was also a mobile base, capable of moving wherever it was needed most. In a galaxy still recovering from centuries of Vorthak oppression, flexibility was survival. The transformation hadn't been easy. After humanity's victories at Phobos and Sol, the Vorthak Empire had tried several more conventional attacks. Each time they had been defeated by the growing alliance of species that had learned to fight with human-style creativity. But the real end of the Empire hadn't come through warfare. It had come through obsolescence. The former Vorthak worlds are requesting more technical advisors, Admiral Kim reported. They want to convert their old military factories to produce hybrid technology. It was a common story throughout former Vorthak space. Worlds that had been forced to build warships for the Empire were now free to develop their own technologies. And almost all of them wanted to learn the human approach to engineering. How many species have adopted hybrid systems now? President Park asked. 43 at last count. And they're all improving the technology in their own ways. The Yervin Republic has developed bioorganic hybrid ships that can literally grow new components. The Korth survivors are building vessels that phase in and out of normal space. Each species brought their own innovations to the hybrid concept. The result was a galaxy full of unique, unpredictable technologies that worked together in ways no single empire could control or counter. The Vorthak themselves had been the biggest surprise. Instead of fighting to the bitter end, most of their military commanders had simply given up. Their rigid command structure couldn't adapt to a galaxy where the rules kept changing. War Commander Thekval wants to speak with you, Admiral Kim mentioned. He has a proposal. Thekval now served as humanity's chief advisor on former Vorthak territories. His knowledge of the Empire's structure had been invaluable in organizing the transition to the new galactic order. They found him in the station's engineering section, working alongside human and alien technicians on the latest hybrid designs. The former enemy commander had adapted to his new role with enthusiasm. President Park, he said, looking up from a complex schematic, I have been thinking about the next phase of galactic development. Oh? The Empire controlled over 300 star systems. Most are now free, but they lack the infrastructure to defend themselves or develop advanced technology. They need help. What kind of help? Mobile engineering stations. Vessels like this one, but smaller. Ships that can travel from system to system, teaching hybrid technology and helping new species develop their own innovations. It was a brilliant idea. Instead of trying to control the galaxy from a central location, humanity could spread the hybrid philosophy to every corner of known space. How many stations would we need? President Park asked. At least 50 to start. Each one designed for a different type of mission. Some for technological development, others for defense, still others for exploration of unknown regions. Dr. Lim was already making notes, his mind racing with possibilities. We could build them here at Sol Station. Each one unique, designed for specific challenges. The conversation was interrupted by an alert from the station's communication center. President Park, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Outer Rim territories. Put it through. The holographic display showed Captain Lee Dae-ho, the original discoverer of the crashed Vorthak ship. He now commanded the exploration vessel New Sol, searching for new species and lost colonies in the unexplored regions of the galaxy. Mr. President, we've made contact with a species that claims to have been fighting the Vorthak for over 2,000 years. They call themselves the Builders, and they say they created the original technology that the Vorthak used. President Park felt his heart skip. The mysterious Builders had been mentioned in several ancient Vorthak records, but no one knew if they still existed. Are they friendly? They're curious about our hybrid technology. Apparently, they've never seen their creations modified the way we've modified them. They want to meet with us. Set up the meeting. And, Captain, good work. As the transmission ended, Thekval made that sound that had become familiar over the years. The one that was definitely laughter now, not sobbing. The Builders, he said with amusement. My people always believed they were myths. Ancient stories to explain where our technology came from. What do the stories say? That they were perfectionists. Every system had to be flawless, every design had to be elegant. They gave the Vorthak their technology because we promised to use it exactly as intended. And instead, we used it to conquer half the galaxy. I doubt they approved. Admiral Kim was already thinking tactically. If the Builders are still around, they might have technology that makes Vorthak systems look primitive. Maybe, President Park said, but it doesn't matter how advanced their technology is. If they're perfectionists like Thekval says, they probably can't adapt it to changing conditions. And we can, Dr. Lim added with a grin. 3 months later, the meeting took place in neutral space, far from any inhabited system. The builder ship was a work of art, perfectly symmetrical, glowing with soft light. Beautiful beyond description, it was also completely inflexible. The builder representative, a tall, graceful being who spoke in mathematical equations, was fascinated by the hybrid technology demonstrations. You took our quantum resonance matrices and made them chaotic, the builder said, its translated voice filled with wonder and horror. The energy patterns should not be stable. They're not, Oh So-young explained cheerfully. She had been chosen as the chief technical representative because of her ability to make complex concepts sound simple. They're constantly changing and adapting. That's what makes them work so well. But chaos is imperfection. Imperfection is failure. Imperfection is opportunity, Park replied. It's room for improvement. The builder stared at her for a long moment, its crystalline eyes reflecting light in complex patterns. Your species has created something we never imagined. Technology that grows and changes instead of remaining static. Want to learn how to do it? We do not know if we can. Our minds are structured for precision, for perfection. Then learn from us, President Park suggested. Send some of your people to work with our engineers. See what happens when perfection meets creativity. The cultural exchange that followed transformed both species. Human engineers learned to create more elegant and efficient systems, while builder scientists learned to embrace controlled chaos and adaptive design. But the greatest change was philosophical. For the first time in their existence, the builders began to see imperfection not as failure, but as potential. Your species has given us a gift, the builder representative said during the final meeting. You have taught us that there is beauty in things that are not perfect, and you've taught us that there's value in getting things right the first time, Park replied. Maybe together we can find a balance. As the years passed, that balance spread throughout the galaxy. The rigid perfection of the builders combined with human adaptability to create technologies that were both elegant and flexible. The warrior honor of the Jelkari merged with human creativity to produce new forms of art and music. The trading skills of the Kepler Federation, enhanced by human innovation, opened up economic opportunities no one had ever imagined. The Sol Station became the first of hundreds of mobile engineering platforms, each one spreading the hybrid philosophy to new worlds and new species. The galaxy didn't become human, or builder, or any single thing, it became something new. Standing on the observation deck of Sol Station as it prepared for another journey to unexplored, the bridge of the Tegukum buzzed with controlled chaos as Captain Bei Sung-ho took his command chair. He had been chosen to captain the hybrid ship not because he was the most experienced, but because he was the most adaptable. In his 15 years with the Mars Defense Force, he had never commanded anything bigger than a patrol cruiser. Now he was in charge of the most advanced warship in human space. Enemy ships dropping out of hyperspace now, reported Lieutenant Commander Han Mi-rae from the tactical station. 3 vessels, Vorthak design. They're big. Bei looked at the main screen and felt his mouth go dry. Each enemy ship was easily twice the size of the Tegukum, their dark hulls bristling with weapons. They moved in perfect formation, precise as clockwork. Distance? He asked. 2 million kilometers and closing. At current speed, they'll be in weapons range in 12 minutes. Bei nodded. 12 minutes to prove that human engineering could match a 1,000-year-old empire. No pressure. Dr. Park's voice came over the intercom from engineering. Captain, all systems are online. The power core is running at 95%. We're as ready as we'll ever be. Understood. Oh, how are our new toys working? Engineer Oh So-young's excited voice came from the weapons bay. The targeting system is fully integrated, sir. I've got neural interface with the main guns, and the quantum computers are accepting my input patterns perfectly. And our passenger? Thekval sat in a restraint chair on the bridge, his forearms secured but his eyes free to watch the battle. Admiral Cho had decided that keeping the former enemy commander nearby might provide useful insights into Vorthak tactics. The scout ships will attempt to disable your vessel without destroying it, Thekval said quietly. They will want to recover their lost technology intact. This will limit their initial attack to ion cannons and capture beams. Good to know, Bei said. What's their standard formation? Delta pattern. The lead ship will engage directly while the flanking vessels crossfire to prevent escape. Simple, effective, unstoppable. We'll see about that. Han, are you ready? Han's hands moved over her control panels like a pianist playing a complex piece. The human modifications to the targeting system had created something unprecedented. A weapons array that could think and adapt in real time. Ready, sir. I've got firing solutions on all 3 targets. Oh, how about those new engines? Engines are... well, they're making that noise again. But they're working. We can maneuver like nothing the Vorthak have ever seen. The enemy ships were closing fast now, their formation perfect and ominous. The lead vessel was already powering up its weapons, energy readings spiking across all spectrums. Incoming transmission, reported Communications Officer Yu Soo-jin. It's in Vorthak. Put it through the translator. A harsh alien voice filled the bridge. Human vessel, you are in possession of stolen Vorthak property. Power down your systems and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will be met with total destruction. Bay looked at Thekval. Standard greeting? Actually, they are being quite polite. Usually they just start shooting. How thoughtful. Open a channel. Bay cleared his throat. Vorthak ships, this is Captain Bay of the Terran vessel Tegukum. The ship you're looking for crashed on our territory. We repaired it and made some improvements. If you want it back, you'll have to take it. The alien voice returned, colder now. You dare to modify sacred Vorthak technology? Your species will pay for this blasphemy. All ships attack formation. Disable their engines but leave the main hull intact. The first attack came exactly as Thekval had predicted. Ion cannons from all 3 ships, designed to overload the Tegukum's electrical systems without destroying the vessel. It was a conservative, predictable assault, which was exactly what the humans had prepared for. Metamorphic hull sections activate, Bay ordered. The ship's armor transformed in seconds. Where solid metal had been, sections became transparent to ion energy. The enemy beams passed harmlessly through the hull like light through glass. On the main screen, they could see the Vorthak ships adjusting their formation, their perfect coordination wavering as their standard tactics failed. They're confused, Han reported. Their sensors show successful hits but no damage. Let's give them something to really think about. Oh, target the lead ship's weapon systems. Show them what our modifications can do. The Tegukum's main guns opened fire, but not with the steady, predictable beams the Vorthak expected. The hybrid weapons adapted their frequency and intensity mid-shot, cycling through dozens of different energy patterns in seconds. The lead enemy ship's shields flashed and sparked, trying to adapt to the changing attack. For a few moments they held. Then the guns found a frequency the shields couldn't block, and the beams punched through to strike the weapon arrays directly. Explosions bloomed along the enemy ship's hull as its primary cannons went offline. Impossible, Thekval gasped. Vorthak shields adapt to any energy frequency. They adapt to consistent frequencies, Park's voice came over the intercom. Our weapons change faster than their shields can compensate. The other 2 enemy ships immediately changed tactics, abandoning their formation to attack from different angles. But the Tegukum was no longer where they expected it to be. O had engaged the modified engines, and the ship moved like no Vorthak vessel ever had. Instead of the stately, predictable maneuvers of traditional space combat, the Tegukum darted and weaved like a fighter craft despite its massive size. How are they moving like that? Came a transmission from one of the enemy ships, apparently an open channel. Their engine configuration makes no sense, replied another voice. The quantum resonance should tear their ship apart. Bay smiled. Oh, can you hear that? Every word, sir. They're trying to scan our engines, but the readings don't match anything in their databases. That was because the human-modified engines didn't follow Vorthak engineering principles. Where the original design had been elegant and efficient, the human version was rough, adaptable, and nearly impossible to predict. The battle was turning into something the Vorthak had never experienced. A fight against an enemy that didn't follow the rules. Sir, the damaged lead ship is trying to withdraw, Han reported. Not yet. Target their hyperspace motivator. Let's make sure they stick around for the whole show. The Tegukum's weapons found their target, disabling the lead ship's ability to escape. Now all 3 enemy vessels were committed to the fight, whether they wanted to be or not. But the Vorthak were adapting too. The remaining 2 ships split up, trying to force the Tegukum to fight on multiple fronts. Their weapons began firing in unpredictable patterns, attempting to match the human ship's adaptive tactics. "They're learning," Tekval observed. "Vorthak commanders are trained to analyze and counter new tactics." "Good thing we're not using tactics," Bay replied. "We're making it up as we go along." That was the key difference. The Vorthak fought with precision and planning, following battle strategies developed over centuries. Humans fought with chaos and creativity, adapting to each moment as it came. "Sir, I've got an idea." O's voice came over the intercom. "But it's completely insane." "Let's hear it." "What if we use the metamorphic hull to change our entire configuration mid-battle? The enemy is targeting us based on our current shape, but if we suddenly become a different kind of ship?" "Do it." The Tegukum began to transform. Sections of hull flowed like liquid metal, rearranging themselves into new configurations. Weapon mounts moved to unexpected positions. The ship's silhouette changed from a sleek warship to something that looked more like an asteroid with guns. The Vorthak ship's targeting systems went haywire. Their computers had been programmed to track known ship types, not vessels that could reshape themselves in the middle of combat. "Now they can't predict our weapon positions or our weak points," Han said with satisfaction. "Every shot they take is a guess." The transformed Tegukum pressed its advantage, its weapons now firing from positions that shouldn't exist on any warship design. The enemy vessels tried to respond, but their rigid tactics couldn't cope with an opponent that refused to stay the same shape for more than a few minutes. One by one, the Vorthak ship's weapons went offline. Their shields failed. Their engines sputtered to a halt. In less than an hour, 3 advanced alien warships had been completely disabled by a single hybrid vessel, crewed largely by humans who had never seen space combat before. "This is not possible," Tekval whispered, staring at the tactical display. 3 ships against 1. Superior numbers. Superior experience. "We should have won." "You fought the same way you always fight," Bay said gently. "We fought like humans." The victory had cost them. The Tegukum's hull was scarred and dented. Several weapon systems were offline, and the modified engines were making even stranger noises than before. But the ship was intact, and more importantly, it had proven something crucial. Human engineering could not just match alien technology, it could surpass it. "Sir, we're getting surrender signals from all 3 enemy ships," Yu reported. "Accepted. Launch recovery teams, but keep our weapons trained on them. And send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we need prison facilities for about 300 Vorthak prisoners." As the recovery teams headed for the disabled enemy ships, Park's voice came over the intercom again.